Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Martial Universe Season 10 Part 62 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. However, a purple-black light rushed over just as the totem pole was 1,000 feet away from Lindorm. Then, little Martin's 10,000 feet large purple-black wings guarded Lindorm like a wing shield, before he forcefully clashed against the totem pole. A frightening energy assault wave spread. Immediately, little Martin felt a sweet sensation rush up his throat, before he vomited a mouthful of blood. However, he forcefully stabilized his body before he blocked the ferocious attack from the cosmic evil Devil King. Roar! At this moment, Little Flame also released a wild roar. Following which, monstrous black and white light surged out from within his huge body. Soon after, his already large body swelled once again. Meanwhile, endless scarlet color surged within his tiger eyes. Finally, his incomparably sharp tiger claws tore through space and wildly attacked the cosmic evil Devil King. Bang bang! Up against Little Flame's maniacal attacks, the cosmic evil Devil King let out a stern roar. Then, it waved its arms. An earth-shaking low and deep noise would sound every time a punch landed on Little Flame's body. As the space vibrated, Little Flame's black and white body was gradually dyed blood red. Little Martin also had crimson eyes. Holding onto two large crescent blades, he flapped his bat wings before he zipped back and forth across the cosmic evil Devil King's body. Then, his crescent blades formed a shocking arc before he ruthlessly hacked the cosmic evil Devil King's body. Boom boom! The three parties fought in a chaotic fashion. Although Little Martin and Little Flame were constantly pushed away, they continued to charge forward in the blink of an eye. Their all-out attacks actually left the cosmic evil Devil King unable to move. Get lost! The cosmic evil Devil King roared sharply. Extending its devil arms, they penetrated through space before it used one arm to grab Little Martin's bat wing, while the other grabbed Little Flame's tiger hand. After which, it slammed the two of them together violently. Immediately, blood spluttered before the two of them flew backwards, leaving 100,000 feet large crack on the ground. I will kill all of you today. When the three great heads of Yuan Gate saw that their cosmic evil Devil King was covered with wounds, they became outraged while murderous desire surged into their hearts. They were just about to give chase when their expressions suddenly changed. Then, all of them quickly lifted their heads before they saw that Lindorm was slowly opening his eyes. Following which, a black line of light appeared between his brows before it slowly split apart. Finally, a mysterious eye, with some lightning arcs crackling within its deep and dark pupil, appeared between Lindorm's brows. When this mysterious eye filled with black light and lightning glow appeared, even the three great heads of Yuan Gate felt shocked in their hearts. Meanwhile, a rich sense of danger spread across their entire bodies. Lindorm sat in the air as a deep pitch-black hole-like eye opened between his brows. A black hole seemed to be rotating inside the mysterious eye. Moreover, it also contained lightning, giving it an incomparably mysterious appearance. The black hole was unfathomably deep and the lightning crazily berserk. The two ancient and incomparably vigorous energies saturated the eye. It was an ancestral symbol eye formed from the power of two ancestral symbols. Lindorm, although you control two ancestral symbols, the overwhelming might of an ancestral symbol I made from the power of the two is far too great and difficult to control. I'm afraid that the current you can barely activate this technique. Yang hurriedly cried out when he sensed the fluctuation in Lindorm's body. Normally speaking, one could only use the ancestral symbol I after attaining a certain exceedingly high level of mastery over the ancestral symbol. For example, the Devouring Master had unleashed the Devouring Eye and nearly managed to kill the extremely terrifying 10-seat king. Of course, Lindorm was also well aware that even though he had activated the ancestral symbol Eye, its strength could not match the Devouring Master's. However, he did possess an advantage that the Devouring Master did not have. It was the additional Thunderbolt ancestral symbol on top of the Devouring ancestral symbol. The Devouring Eye of the Devouring Master contained extremely pure devouring power. This ancestral symbol Eye of Lindorm's, however, merged both the powers of the Devouring ancestral symbol and the Thunderbolt ancestral symbol. Although this made it very hard to control, its power would be relatively astonishing. Lin Dong naturally understood this. However, the current situation no longer allowed Lin Dong to give any more consideration to this matter. The three great heads of Yuan Gate were no ordinary characters. Currently, the three of them had used a strange method to merge with the cosmic evil Devil King. Ordinary reincarnation stage experts were no match against such power. The reason the three brothers could endure until now was because of their many techniques. Despite this, Little Martin and Little Flame were seriously injured. If he did not unleash this trump card, the situation would likely become extremely dire. This battle was just as intense as the one from 3 years ago. However, the Lin Dong trio were no longer only capable of escaping. They now possessed the trump cards and ability to turn the situation around. Who? Lin Dong gently exhaled a breath of white air. His eyes glanced at the injury-ridden Little Martin and Little Flame. At this moment, the both of them were still overflowing with ferocity. However, a trace of fatigue had appeared in their eyes. They had gone all out in this brutal struggle against the three behemoths. Despite this, none of them showed any signs of giving up. The three great heads of Yuan Gate were indeed very strong, but the Lin Dong trio refused to allow the scene from 3 years ago to repeat itself no matter what. I know. Yang ceased speaking after hearing Lin Dong's calm and emotionless voice. He was aware of the latter's character. No one could change Lin Dong's mind after the latter had made his decision. I am the big brother amongst us three brothers. I already allowed them to be wronged 3 years ago. If I am still unable to beat the three great heads this time, I really won't have the face to continue being their big brother. Lin Dong smiled. After which, his eyes gradually became cold as they slowly turned towards the cosmic evil Devil King. The expressions on the three strange faces were currently changing as they stared at him. Old dogs, it has been 3 years. It is time to repay your debts. Lin Dong looked at the three great heads. The ancestral symbol eye between his brows grew increasingly deeper as his complexion paled at an alarming speed. In your dreams? A deafening laughter was emitted from the three great heads. However, the expressions on their faces had become rather grave. They could feel the frightening and dangerous aura emanating from the eye between Lin Dong's brows. Moreover, they were no longer at their peak condition. Lin Dong's act of wreaking havoc in their body in addition to Little Martin and Little Flame's desperate attacks had expanded a rather substantial amount of their energy. Although they were not at their best, the three great heads still possessed great self-confidence. They did not believe that they would actually lose to the Lin Dong trio in this extremely powerful combat form of theirs. Bang! Surging demonic chi crazily swept out from the body of the cosmic evil Devil King. Many wild beast-like roars were also emitted as the viscous demonic chi frantically gathered within the demonic hand of the cosmic evil Devil King. While the viscous demonic chi frantically converged, the cosmic evil Devil King's body gradually shrunk. While it shrunk, an exceedingly frightening ripple began to scatter from its demonic palm. The expressions in the eyes of the Little Martin duo changed when they sensed the cosmic evil Devil King's actions. They could feel that these three great heads were also planning on using a trump card of their own. Monstrous demonic chi churned. Compared to the wild and violent mannerism of the three great heads, Lin Dong appeared extremely calm. Not even the slightest yuan power fluctuation could be detected around his body. Lin Dong's extreme calmness caused one's heart to leap. Due to the great disturbance here, many pairs of eyes in distant chaotic battlegrounds involuntarily shifted over. Everyone present was well aware that the most critical fight was the one between the Lin Dong trio and the three great heads. The losing side would definitely be dealt a fatal blow. What terrifying demonic chi! The eyes of First Elder Zhu Li, Liu Qing, and the others hardened slightly while graveness filled their faces. They could feel just how frightening the attack of this cosmic evil Devil King was. If they were the ones in Lin Dong's shoes, it would be impossible for them to stop such an attack. I wonder if Lin Dong will be able to receive that attack. They looked to the opposite side of the monstrous demonic chi, where Lin Dong was quietly sitting in the air. Worry flashed across their hearts. Bang! After shrinking to 1,000 feet in size, the cosmic evil Devil King finally stopped. Viscous demonic chi slowly flowed like a river on its demonic palm. Even space itself gradually collapsed under this viscous demonic chi river. Ha ha. The three great heads laughed towards the sky. Their laughter was filled with brutality. Murderous aura gathered into their eyes and an explosive cry suddenly reverberated across the sky. 10,000 Devil Hell River, devil erodes all things. Rumble. A loud rumbling sound suddenly emerged from the viscous demonic chi river. After which, it whizzed forward. It was accompanied by earth-shaking demonic chi that crazily charged towards Lindong like a tsunami. The land seemed to tear apart wherever the demonic chi river passed. That momentum not only caused the expressions of the little Martin duo to change. Even Ying Huan and the others in the distance subconsciously tensed up. Countless pairs of eyes gathered to this spot. The other battlegrounds appeared inconsequential at this moment. If Lindong was defeated at the hands of the three great heads, the situation would likely become extremely disadvantageous to them. The demonic chi river surged. In the short span of several breaths, it was already on the verge of engulfing Lindong. The latter's body suddenly shook slightly. Paleness began to spread on the latter's face at a frightening pace, and even his hands began to turn white. In contrast to this paleness that had invaded his body, the ancestral symbol I between his brows gradually became brighter and deeper. Ancestral symbol I, devil purifying light? A weak voice was softly emitted from Lindong's lips. After which, his eyes were gradually shut and the ancestral symbol I between his brows suddenly widened. A palm-sized black ray of light stealthily shot out. The ray of light and the mighty demonic chi river were like a firefly and the moon. However, it did not hesitate as it shot forth. In a flash, it had already penetrated the void and charged into the demonic chi river. Bang! The tremendous demonic chi river, that was moments away from crashing into Lindong's body, suddenly froze at this moment. The water was only half a foot from Lindong's face. However, it was unable to fall any further. Buzz buzz. A buzzing sound was emitted from within the demonic chi river. After which, everyone felt a strange ripple emerge from within the demonic chi river. The mighty demonic chi river immediately melted away at an astonishing speed, while the incomparably evil demonic chi scattered in all directions. In a short few seconds, the demonic chi river, which even a reincarnation stage expert could not block, had strangely disappeared. How is this possible? The original brutal faces of the three great heads turned rigid at this moment. Shock and disbelief bubbled in their eyes as they watched this scene. Swoosh! A tiny ray of light shot out from where the demonic chi river had faded and headed straight for the cosmic evil devil king in front of their stunned eyes. Terror surged in the eyes of the three great heads when they saw the ray of light rushing towards them. After witnessing just how terrifying this thing was earlier, they clearly did not dare to ignore it. Roar! The cosmic evil devil king roared towards the sky. At the same time, the demonic chi totem in its hand furiously smashed towards the tiny ray of light. Sizzle! The light ray hit the demonic chi totem. Many cracks immediately began to spread on it. In an instant, the totem pillar, which contained majestic demonic chi, burst apart. The ray of light continued its charge forward like a hot knife through butter. In the end, it shot into the huge body of the cosmic evil devil king in front of the startled eyes of the three great heads. In the sky, the deathly pale Lindong slowly opened his eyes. The ancestral symbol I between his brows quickly disappeared. He looked at the terror-filled faces of the three great heads as a faint smile surfaced on his face. You have lost. Many bright cracks suddenly appeared on the huge body of the cosmic evil devil king. After which, radiance burst out from the cracks. The three great heads had horrified expressions. They watched as Lindong slowly lifted his hand and lightly clenched it. Bang! The titanic body of the cosmic evil devil king suddenly exploded the moment Lindong's hand was clenched. Demonic chi pervaded the sky, while the miserable screeches of the three great heads resounded within this demonic chi world. A dazzling radiance akin to the scorching sun erupted from the spot where the cosmic evil devil king exploded. The surrounding overflowing demonic chi immediately melted away at an astonishing speed like snow that had touched lava. The radiance lasted for over a dozen minutes before gradually fading. After which, countless anxious eyes hurriedly shot over. Only half of the huge devil's body remained on the ground. Black devil blood flowed from it, emitting a faint stench in the process. The originally incomparably strong cosmic evil devil king was completely lifeless at this moment. We won. The countless powerful individuals from the Yuan exterminating alliance in the distance were initially started before an earth-shaking cheer erupted. The nearby Little Martin duo also wore startled expressions. Light flickered around their bodies as they began to turn back to their original forms. However, their eyes were filled with caution as they stared at the cosmic evil devil king's corpse. Grug. In the sky, Lin Dong suddenly threw up a mouthful of blood, and his already pale face became even paler. His aura was extremely weak. Big brother. The Little Martin duo hurried over upon seeing this. Little Flame grabbed Lin Dong and repeatedly cried out with a voice that was full of worry. Lin Dong shook his head slightly. His pitch-black eyes were glued to the unmoving devil corpse. Subsequently, both of his eyes narrowed a little. This action were inconspicuous, but it was still captured in Little Martin's eyes. The latter understood Lin Dong well. Immediately, Little Martin's eyes tightened. Dense energy ripples were once again emitted from his body as he protected Lin Dong behind him. Second brother? Little Flame was slightly startled. These three old dogs are not completely dead yet. Lin Dong was exceptionally weak, and even his voice had become rather hoarse. This was the first time he had pushed himself to such a state after obtaining the Devouring Master's inheritance. Little Flame's expression changed drastically upon hearing this, as his body suddenly tensed. But they are not far from that final step. Lin Dong patted Little Flame's shoulder. After which, he looked at the cosmic evil devil king corpse below with a sneer in his eyes and said, "Why? Weren't you very impressive earlier? To think that you would actually play such tricks now. Aren't you afraid of losing all the face of you three Yuan Gate behemoths?" There was no reaction from the devil corpse. Not even the slightest ripple was emitted. The sneer in Lin Dong's eyes grew even wider upon seeing this as he gently waved his hand. "Buzz." Little Martin also laughed coldly and made a grasping motion with both of his hands. Purple-black light condensed into a huge purple-black crescent in front of him. With a flick of his finger, the crescent penetrated through the void and ruthlessly dashed towards the devil corpse. Swoosh! Just as the crescent was about to strike devil corpse, a flash of black light finally shot out from within and sent it flying. As the crescent was blown away, the black light turned into three human figures. They were the three great heads of Yuan Gate. However, their expressions were even paler than Lin Dong's. Their eyes were dull grey and their auras were extremely frail. The three great heads looked at the Lin Dong trio in the sky above with steely green faces, while their eyes rapidly flickered. Three old dogs. To think that the esteemed three great heads of Yuan Gate will also learn to play dead like a dog. Little Martin looked at the three of them and ridiculed. His tone was extremely harsh. The faces of the three great heads twitched as they venomously stared at the trio. In the next moment, their bodies moved and they turned into black light which shot towards the ground. From the looks of it, they were trying to escape. Trying to flee. However, Little Martin merely sneered in response to their actions. He stomped his foot and purple-black light swept across the surface of the ground, sending the three of them bouncing back. At this moment, the strength of the three great heads had clearly declined. They were unable to even contend against even Little Martin. Buzz! The three great heads were bounced back. Before they could do anything else, Lin Dong waved his hand and an ancient stone tablet whizzed forth. The tablet expanded and turned into a huge stone tablet that was tens of thousands of feet in size. The stone tablet floated in the sky. After which, a clear buzzing exploded from it. Light gathered at the bottom of the tablet and turned into an ancient formation that violently suppressed the three great heads. Ah! Under the light of the great desolate tablet, the three great heads felt an intense pain in their bodies as if they were pincushions that was being pierced by countless needles, causing them to shriek. They looked at the descending great desolate tablet as fear surfaced in their eyes. They knew that they would really die if they were crushed by the Great Desolate Tablet. Lin Dong, do you truly believe that the three of us do not have a final trump card? Must you really take things so far? Qian Yuan's expression was volatile as he sternly cried out. Lin Dong had an indifferent expression. He was completely unaffected. The rate at which the Great Desolate Tablet was suppressing the three became increasingly quick. Fine. Bastard, since you wish to destroy the three of us, everyone here shall accompany us to the grave. Savage expressions rose in the Qian Yuanzi trio's eyes after seeing that Lin Dong did not intend to show any mercy at all. They exchanged glances and violently clenched their teeth. In that case, let all of us die here. The Qian Yuanzi trio suddenly pressed their palms against each other as each spat out a mouthful of black blood. After which, their eyes swiftly dimmed as their bodies swelled at a frightening speed. Quickly withdraw. Lin Dong shouted in an alarmed voice when he saw this. TSK, it's too late. All of you shall die? Ferocious expressions surfaced on the faces of the Qian Yuanzi trio. Soon after, black liquid flowed out on the surface of their bodies and they ultimately self-destructed with a bang. Bang! Indescribable demonic chi crazily unfurled from the bodies of the three. Everything within a 10,000 feet radius was instantly flattened. Little Martin and Little Flame spat out a mouthful of fresh blood as their bodies catapulted backwards. Lin Dong shook his sleeve at the critical moment. The mysterious divine palace appeared and surrounded him. However, the demonic chi assault was far too frightening. The mysterious divine palace did not last for long and rapidly dimmed under its power. Finally, it returned to Lin Dong's body. Lin Dong was immediately exposed to the demonic chi assault when the mysterious divine palace disappeared. At his current condition, he was no longer able to withstand such an attack. All he could do was to clench his teeth and forcefully maneuver the yuan power in his body to block the attack. Swoosh! However, he suddenly felt an icy aura wrap around him just as he prepared to forcibly resist. A slender and cool hand gently embraced his waist and his body shot backwards. Wind rushed by Lin Dong's ear. He opened his eyes and saw long ice blue hair drifting in front of his eyes. Ying Huan held him with one arm while her other hand swiftly formed many seals. A frightening chill swept out from her palm and turned into many large ice shields in front of them. Bang bang! However, the ice shields were shattered by the demonic chi assault the moment they were formed. Nevertheless, even more ice shields were created. This resulted in the air being filled with sounds of ice shields being shattered. In the meantime, Ying Huan retreated with Lin Dong, dodging the attack of the demonic chi. However, it was evident that the shock wave from the self-destruction of three reincarnation stage experts had far exceeded Lin Dong's expectations. Even though Ying Huan had intervened, the demonic chi assault still very quickly caught up to them. Move aside! A cold shout suddenly sounded from behind just as the demonic chi assault wave was about to catch up to the both of them. Ying Huan hesitated briefly upon hearing this, but she quickly grabbed Lin Dong and moved to the side. A stunning white-cloaked figure rushed over from behind as they moved out of the way. First Elder Zhu Li, Liu Qing, and many experts followed closely behind. Frightening yuan power surged and formed a 10,000 feet large yuan power light curtain in front of them. Bang! Demonic chi was like a torrent that smashed heavily onto the yuan power light curtain, causing the latter to shake violently. The faces of many experts paled. Subsequently, an explosive cry sounded as vast and mighty yuan power surged out. Boom boom boom. Demonic chi continued to batter the yuan power light curtain. Although the light curtain continued to shake, the combined strength of the many experts finally managed to block the assault wave. Everyone sighed in relief after the demonic chi assault gradually weakened and the yuan power light curtain slowly disappeared. Are you all right? Ying Huan hurriedly looked at Lin Dong after the danger was resolved. The latter's ashen face caused her voice to possess an additional trace of anxiety. Ling Qingzhu and the others gathered around Lin Dong. Their eyes were somewhat worried. I'm fine. I'm just a little exhausted. Lin Dong smiled and shook his head. His ashen face and weak body, however, was unconvincing. Everyone usually saw him as an unkillable cockroach. No one had ever seen him in such a weak state. The blood-covered little Martin duo hurried over from afar. They sighed in relief after seeing that Lindong was rescued. Little Flame wiped off the blood on his face and surveyed the area before he said, "Those 3 old dogs completely dead." Lindong also wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth. He frowned as he looked at the demonic chi world. He was just about to speak when a ferocious loud laughter resounded over the sky. "Ha ha, it is too early for all of you to be happy. Although the 3 of us have self-destructed, the demonic chi has already completed the demon feast world. Ha ha, this is a world of demonic chi from now onwards, and all of you can forget about escaping. Obediently stay here and allow the demonic chi to erode all of you." That ferocious laughter echoed and gradually disappeared. After which, the auras of the 3 great heads of Yuan Gate finally vanished completely. The expressions of Lindong's group slightly changed upon hearing the vicious words left behind by the trio before they died. The group hurriedly turned their heads and saw that the demonic corpses fall one after another from the sky. Waves of demonic chi surged from their bodies and started to spread. "Look above you." A grave expression surfaced on Ying Huan's face as she softly said. Lindong hurriedly lifted his head upon hearing this. A thick demonic chi light barrier, which one could not see through, extended in the sky. Subsequently, the entire place was covered by it. It was also possible to see countless strange demonic symbols wiggling on the demonic chi light barrier. This light barrier seemed to have cut off all connection between this place and the outside world. Everyone's faces gradually paled when they saw this scene. A thick demonic chi light barrier covered the sky as it descended from a great distance away. It looked just like an inverted bowl and it covered everyone within. When the crowd saw the demonic chi ripples within the light barrier, their faces all paled slightly. That was because they realized that after the Qian Yuanzi trio self-destructed and in addition to the countless disintegrated devil corpses, this part of the world seemed to have turned into a miniature demonic chi world. Moreover, it seemed like there were no openings in this demonic world. The originally chaotic and violent battlefield became silent instantly. Meanwhile, those bloodthirsty devil corpses had all vanished. Standing in the sky, the experts from the Yuan Destruction Alliance faced each other, before they turned to look somewhat anxiously at the demonic light barrier in the sky. Following which, a commotion slowly spread. "What should we do now?" Ying Xiaoxiao looked at the growing commotion, before she frowned and softly asked. "The demonic chi here is extremely dense. Given our strength, we can still withstand it. However, most ordinary experts cannot stay for too long. Or else, they will eventually be corrupted by the demonic chi." Ying Xuanzi said. "The 3 great heads of Yuan Gate are quite capable indeed. My celestial demon Martin tribe fought with them in the past. However, at that time, they had to band together with many super sects in the eastern Xian region in order to fight with us. Unexpectedly, they became so powerful now." First Elder Zhu Li sighed in a somewhat emotional manner as he said. "This was only because they borrowed the strength of the Yimo. However, such a method will eventually destroy themselves," Lindong said with a pale face. As he stared at the incomparably thick demonic light barrier, he said, "We must find a way to break it. I will do it. Let me see just how powerful the Dan Devil Feast world is." Liu Qing parted his lips into a smile before his eyes became stern. Following which, green light surged around him, before thousands of green dragon light tattoos rose around him. After which, he let out a deep cry and transformed into an enormous green dragon. Finally, he whizzed forward and violently slammed against the demonic light barrier. Bang! A circular green light spread and a ripple undulated across the light barrier. However, it gradually calmed down. It turns out that Liu Qing's formidable attack was completely ineffective. Everyone's pupils hardened upon seeing this. Following which, a grave expression appeared on Liu Qing's face before he quickly shook his head and remarked in a deep voice, "It is very powerful indeed." Even someone as arrogant as him had no choice but to admit that the Devil Feast world was very powerful. As such, one could easily tell how tricky the current situation was. Lin Dong frowned tightly. Currently, he was in a weakened state and was clearly unable to do anything. Moreover, his surroundings were filled with demonic qi. Hence, even though he possessed the devouring ancestral symbol, it was impossible for him to absorb all the demonic qi here. Therefore, his recovery rate was greatly diminished. Sect Master Ying, young brother Lin Dong, what should we do now? The sect master of Blade Sect, Mo Jian, and some other experts rushed over. They cupped their hands towards Lin Dong. After witnessing Lin Dong's frightening strength, it was obvious that they did not dare to act disrespectfully towards the latter. Why don't we gather everyone and combine our forces to break the Devil Feast world? Ying Xiao suggested. No. I'm afraid that Yuan Gate had already made advanced preparations in this area. Moreover, the three great heads of Yuan Gate self-destructed, causing the demonic qi in this area to fall into a never-ending cycle of circulation. Although there are many of us, we are all extremely disorganized. Trying to break the Devil Feast world forcefully would only cause our Yuan power to be assimilated by the demonic qi, allowing the demonic qi here to become denser. Ying Huan shook her head and said, it's best to break the Devil Feast world using as few people as possible. However, if it's only a few of us, how can we possibly break the Devil Feast world? Moreover, it is obvious that Lin Dong cannot help now. Ying Xuanzi sighed before he said. Everyone became quiet. Even Liu Qing's attack was hardly effective. Moreover, who else here besides Lin Dong could surpass Liu Qing? I will do it. Amidst the silence, the voices of two ladies suddenly sounded simultaneously. Everyone turned to look, only to realize that the ones who had spoken were actually Ling Qingshu and Ying Huan. Ying Huan was momentarily startled after she heard Ling Qingshu's words. Then, she said in a faint voice, although you have advanced to the samsara stage, with your current strength, there is little you can do to the Devil Feast world. We shouldn't judge a book by its cover, don't you agree? Ling Qingshu looked at Ying Huan's similarly pretty icy face before she said. Ying Huan frowned slightly, while her icy blue eyes stared back at Ling Qingshu. Clearly, she did not trust the latter. Everyone was stunned when they saw the two ladies' conduct. Soon after, they cast a strange glance at Lin Dong. However, they did not say anything. Cough. After being subjected to strange stares from the crowd, Lin Dong could only cough softly. Then, he said, the both of you should attack together. Perhaps, you guys will have a better chance of success. Ying Huan finally averted her pretty eyes after she heard Lin Dong's words. After which, she said, I will go first. You can help depending on the situation. Ling Qingshu had a cool demeanor and did not like to compete with others. In fact, she only stepped forward today owing to the gravity of the situation. Hence, she did not say anything more after she saw Ying Huan giving in. Instead, she merely nodded her head gently. Ying Huan took a couple of steps gently and slowly walked forward. Soon after, a frightening cold aura was emitted from within her body. Following which, the surrounding air agglomerated into icy flowers before they drifted downwards. Cold aura was circling around her body. After which, Ying Huan slowly shut her eyes. Everyone could see her icy blue long hair gradually becoming longer after she did so. Moreover, that icy blue color was becoming increasingly intense. Her icy blue long hair was drifting behind her back. Looking from afar, it resembled an icy blue waterfall. Meanwhile, her beauty was accompanied by a bone-chilling iciness. Behind her, when Lin Dong saw the icy blue long hair growing on Ying Huan's head, he involuntarily clenched his fist. Eternal Ice Seal Halberd. A clear lovely voice, which was filled with endless chill, suddenly sounded. Following which, Ying Huan suddenly opened her pretty eyes before she used her delicate finger to draw a mysterious ice symbol. After which, icy blue light surged before a dazzling cold ice halberd swiftly formed in front of her. Meanwhile, that ice halberd was covered with mysterious symbols. Swoosh! The surrounding temperature immediately dropped after the ice halberd appeared. After which, Ying Huan gently bit the tip of her tongue before a drop of essence blood landed onto her ice halberd. Immediately, the color of that ice halberd changed from icy blue to dark red. Meanwhile, a formidable sharp icy chill spread. Go? Ying Huan's pretty pupils hardened. With a cold cry, her dark red ice halberd shot forward abruptly. Following which, wild gales spread, scattering her long icy blue hair and causing them to dance in the wind. At this moment, a delicate figure was just like a pretty blossoming flower, and she looked extremely dazzling. Swoosh! The dark red ice halberd easily tore through many layers of demonic chi. Finally, it collided violently against the demonic light barrier. Immediately, a frightening chill spread before the overbearing cold aura instantly froze the demonic chi which was surging over. Crack! A small crack suddenly appeared on the demonic light barrier. However, at the same time, a crack also appeared on that huge dark red ice halberd. The two cracks continued to grow. However, it was clear that the crack on the ice halberd was growing at a faster pace. In less than a dozen breaths, the crack on the demonic light barrier was already hundreds of feet. However, just as the thick demonic light barrier was about to break, the dark red ice halberd shattered with a loud bang. Immediately, Ying Huan emitted a soft moan before a trace of blood seeped out from her lips. After which, her body shook before she flew backwards. Standing behind her, Lin Dong immediately rushed forward upon seeing this. Then, he grabbed her delicate soft waist before he supported her. Swoosh! Beside him, Ling Qingzhu rushed forward the instant Lin Dong moved. Her legs gently tapped against the empty space. Following which, she clenched her hand before a long sword appeared in a flash. With that long sword in her jade-like hands, she retracted the aura undulated on her entire body. Following which, an extremely obscure light was suddenly emitted above her head. Meanwhile, an indescribable fluctuation spread quietly. Is this the moment that light was emitted? Lin Dong clearly heard Yang exclaim in shock. What is it? Lin Dong quickly asked. However, Yang had suddenly descended into silence. In fact, only the gentle vibrations from the ancestor stone proved that there were indeed ripples within Yang's heart. Although he had his doubts, Lin Dong knew that now was not the time for questions. Hence, he quickly turned his attention towards Ling Qingzhu. Currently, she was holding a long sword in her hand, before she suddenly pierced forward gently. There wasn't overly majestic yuan power undulated on her sword. However, it was covered by a mysterious thin layer of light. Nonetheless, that light even caused Lin Dong to feel a prickling chill on his skin. That sword pierced forward before an inconspicuous sword glow shot forward. Then, it penetrated through space before it gently landed on the crack that Ying Huan had created previously. In the next instant, the sword glow and monstrous demonic chi faced off. After which, everyone heard a puff sound, before the glowing sword penetrated the demonic chi and stabbed through the crack on the demonic light barrier. A ray of sunlight penetrated the crack and shone down. After which, yuan power from the outside world surged in and immediately disrupted the cycle within the Devil Feast world. Following which, densely packed crack lines began to spread all across the light barrier, before it finally exploded with a loud bang. Warm sunlight once again descended from all directions. When everyone saw the sunlight in front of them and the lush greenery in the distance, they involuntarily erupted with joy. After all, they knew that they had just survived a massive tribulation. They had finally won this fight. Lin Dong inhaled a deep breath of air. Meanwhile, he began to circulate the devouring power within his body. When he sensed that incoming natural yuan power, a relieved smile appeared on his face. It's finally over, Ying Xuanzi involuntarily smiled. Yuan Gate was finally destroyed and the war in the Eastern Xian region had finally came to an end. The other experts from the Eastern Xian region were all extremely excited. After all, now that Yuan Gate was destroyed, they had finally gotten their revenge. Moreover, they could now continue to live in this region. A pale color appeared on Ling Qingzhu's gorgeous face. After which, she glanced at Ying Huan, who was now being embraced by Lin Dong. Then, she lowered her head before she slowly inserted her long sword back into its scabbard. Are the both of you all right? Lin Dong had sharp eyes. Hence, he quickly asked in a worried tone after he saw the pale expression on Ling Qingzhu's face. Ling Qingzhu and Ying Huan both shook their heads. They were just about to speak when their pretty eyes hardened. Meanwhile, Lin Dong's expression also changed at the same time. He slowly turned his head before he cast his attention towards a distant mountain top. There was a black figure standing at that spot like a statue, with his hands behind his back. He gave off no aura and it was completely impossible to detect him. However, his body did exist at that spot. Hence, this strange sensation caused the expressions of Lin Dong's group to turn grave. Haha, a trap that was set up over so many years was actually destroyed in this manner. What a waste. The black figure looked at Lin Dong's group. After which, his eyes paused on Ying Huan before he smiled gently and asked, Ice Master, it has been tens of thousands of years since we last met. How are you? This episode ends here.